Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're really digging into something special. Section 76 of the Law of One.
Yeah, a fascinating one.
Absolutely. Many of you asked for a detailed look, so that's our mission. A question-by-question journey through Session 76, trying to really grasp the insights.
And hopefully present it in a way that's engaging and, positive, like the request mentioned.
Exactly. We want this to be insightful, beautiful even. And we approach it with that spirit of connection. Namaste. I am you, and you are me.
Namaste. It's a privilege to explore this material.
Great. So, let's dive straight in. Question 76.1. Could you first please give me an indication of the condition of the instrument? What did Ra say?
Well, Ross starts off pretty starkly, actually. They mention physical complex bankruptcy.
Wow, bankruptcy, that sounds serious.
It does. It implies the physical body is significantly depleted, and apparently this wasn't new. It had been going on for some time.
Okay, but wasn't there a counterpoint?
Yes, exactly. Ra contrasts this with normal vital energies and, importantly, a strong spiritual complex counterpart.
So despite the physical issues, there's this core spiritual strength holding things together.
That's the implication. That strength is providing substance, resilience. It highlights that mind-body-spirit connection right away.
And how might that affect the communication itself, that balance?
Well, it suggests a certain fragility, doesn't it? The need for care. But also that the communication is possible because of that spiritual strength being drawn upon. It takes dedication.
Which leads perfectly into the next question, 76.2, about potential harm. Will our continued communication with Ra be deleterious to the physical energies of the instrument? A very practical concern.
A crucial one. And Ra gives a two-part answer here. Firstly, if they just kept communicating without any physical energy transfer to the instrument, it would drain her vital energy. Ra uses the term actively deleterious if she wanted to, continue living a normal third-density life.
Right, like burning fuel without refueling. Makes sense.
Exactly. But then the second part is the mitigation, how to prevent that harm.
Okay, what were those methods?
Raman mentions careful monitoring, which they always emphasize, but also specific energy transfers, sexual energy transfer, magical protection, and something called thought form energizing.
Thought form energizing. We'll get
Yeah.
back to that one. And these actions prevent things from getting worse.
Yeah, they prevent a worsening of the instrument's strength-weakness distortions, basically, keeping her energetic system from becoming more unbalanced by the contact.
Ra also mentioned external greetings attracted by her dedication. What's that about? Is that related?
It seems so. Her commitment basically acts like a light, drawing attention, energetically speaking. Some might be helpful, others maybe not so much.
So the magical protection and care are also about managing those outside influences.
That seems to be part of it, yes. Protecting the energetic space and the instrument from anything potentially draining or disruptive.
Okay, let's tackle that third point. Question 76.3 asks for clarification. Of the three things you mentioned, would you clarify the last one? The thought form energizing. How did Ryan explain that?
Ra used an analogy to empathy. You know how we can kind of feel with someone?
Sure.
Well, Ra suggests we can also share beneficial energy through focused thought. More specifically, the thought form itself, like the thought conceived as an actual energetic object, is the carrier for this positive energy.
So it's like directing a beam of positive intention, visualized wellness, towards the person.
That's a good way to put it. It's not just good vibes, it's seen as a tangible, energetic support. Shows how connected consciousness can be.
Powerful stuff. Okay, moving on to rituals. Question 76.4. Has our use of the banishing ritual of the lesser pentagram been of any value, and what is its effect?
Ra says yes, definitely valuable, and that its use has become increasingly efficacious.
Efficacious, meaning it's working better over time.
Exactly. Its main effects are purification, cleansing, and protecting the space where they do the work, like energetic housekeeping.
But there was a caveat, wasn't there? Something about its level.
Right. Ra puts it in perspective. They say its effectiveness is at the lower limits of the truly magical.
Ooh, okay. So, helpful, but maybe not advanced magic.
Kind of. Ra uses this great analogy. It's like starting schoolwork many grades ahead. The ritual helps, but the real foundation, the homework, is the inner state of being.
Being informs the working, not the working that informs the being. I remember that line.
Precisely. The internal development, the consciousness of the practitioners is what truly empowers the ritual. The outer form supports the inner reality.
So the ritual cleans the space, but the real power comes from within the people doing it.
That's the gist.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
And question 76.5 follows right up. Would it be beneficial for us to perform the banishing ritual more in this room?
And Ra's answer is pretty straightforward. It is beneficial to regularly work in this place, so yeah, keep doing it regularly. Consistency matters.
Okay. Now, a shift. 76.6, after noting a delay between sessions, asks, could you please tell me the origin of the tarot?
Ah, the tarot. A big one. Ra points to a dual origin, actually, two streams merging.
Okay, what's the first stream?
It stems from ancient Egypt. Ra says priests there tried to capture the Law of One teachings they'd received, but their understanding was, well, distorted.
How so?
They created symbols, the precursors to the major arcana, to try and convey these complex ideas to initiates. Ra calls this early form an understanding, maybe hinting it wasn't the full picture.
So, an attempt to codify wisdom, but inevitably filtered and changed through human interpretation. What's the second origin point?
That comes from Mesopotamia, Chaldea. Entities there had been working with astrological data, information about the heavens, for a long time.
So, astrology.
Essentially, yes. Ra says these two approaches, the Egyptian symbolic archetypal stuff and the Mesopotamian stargazing, eventually got blended together.
Ah, trying to map the archetypes onto the planets and signs and vice versa.
Exactly. And according to Ra, this merging led to uneven results and introduced further distortions into what became the tarot system we know.
Fascinating. So the tarot is this hybrid system carrying echoes of both traditions, but also layers of distortion.
That's Ra's perspective on its history.
Question 76.7 just seeks to confirm that.
Yeah.
Then, am I correct in assuming that the priests in Egypt constructed and initiated the concept of the tarot?
Ra says this is correct, but adds an important clarification with the addition of the Sumerian influence.
Sumerian, okay. So not just Egypt and Chaldea, but Sumer also played a role. Adds another historical layer.
Indeed.
Now, 76.8 goes back to Ra's own time in Egypt, where Ra's teachings focusing on the archetypes and the methods of achieving a very close approach to the archetypical configuration.
Ra's answer here is interesting. They say, this is correct without being true.
Correct without being true. How does that work?
Well, Ra clarifies that yes, studying the roots of mind, which includes archetypes, was a necessary part of their teaching process back then.
Wow.
But it wasn't the main focus or the ultimate goal. Their primary mission, as they stated, was being humble messengers of the Law of One.
Okay.
Their aim was to help people reach an initiated state, to connect directly with intelligent energy, become teach learners themselves, and then go out and heal and share that understanding.
So studying archetypes was a step on that path, a way to wake up the mind, but not the destination itself.
Exactly. It was about mind complex vivification, as Ra puts it, bringing the mind alive as part of the larger journey towards embodying the Law of One.
Got it. So question 76.9 asks about the present-day value. Is there any present-day value for the reuse of the tarot as an aid in the evolutionary process?
And Ra says, yes, there is value. They essentially repeat the idea that studying one of these symbolic systems in depth can lead you to eventually experiencing the archetypes directly.
One system in depth. Did they specify which systems?
Yes, they list three main choices. Astrology, with its signs and planets, the tarot, focusing on the 22 major arcana, and the Tree of Life, with its 10 Sephiroth and 22 paths or relationships.
Wow, placing them on equal footing as potential pathways.
Seems so. The key, Ra stresses, isn't which one you pick, but the commitment. You have to dive deep, not as a dilettante, really engage with it until it resonates, until you feel that pull of the magnet within the system.
Find that touchstone they mentioned.
Right. And it's not just about learning the rules or meanings by rote.
What's the goal beyond that?
The goal is to eventually move beyond the book definitions, the written understanding, and start expressing your own unique, intuitive grasp of the archetypical mind, born from that deep study and direct experience.
Okay, that's profound. Now, 76.7 gets quite cosmic. Would I be correct in saying that our local logos distorted that which we experience here, and that the archetypes of this particular logos are somewhat unique? Asking about our local cosmic setup.
Yeah, it's a dense question, but the core is, are the archetypes we experience specific to our local logos, our sun or solar system's consciousness?
And the answer
Is yes. Roe affirms that each logos crafts its own unique archetypical mind. The analogy given is like how stars look different depending on which galaxy you're viewing them from.
So the fundamental patterns of our reality are, in a sense, tailored to this cosmic neighborhood.
That's the idea. They wouldn't necessarily translate directly to a system under a different logos, although Roe does add that closer logoi likely have more similar archetypes.
A gradient of similarity across the cosmos. Fascinating. Question 76.11 connects this to Ra. Then, since Ra evolved initially on Venus, Ra is of the same archetypical origin as that which we experience here. Is this correct?
And Ra simply confirms this is correct. Their Venusian origins place them within the same broad archetypal framework as us here on Earth.
Makes sense. Then 76.11 wonders about Ra's own past methods. But I am assuming that the concepts of the tarot and tree of life were not in use by Ra, possibly some form of astrology. Am I correct?
Here's where Ra invokes the law of confusion.
Ah, protecting free will.
Exactly. They basically say that revealing how they studied archetypes back in their own density under their specific distortions would unduly influence our choices now.
It might make us think their way is the only way or the best way for us.
Precisely. It could skew our judgment about what tools or methods are right for our current learning. What worked for them then isn't necessarily the prescription for us now.
A good reminder to find our own path. Okay, a definite shift now with 76.13, moving to planetary timelines. Could you give me an idea of the length of the first and second density that occurred for this planet? Dawn acknowledges these might be off-center questions.
Right, basic timeline stuff. For first density, Ross says measuring it before time as we know it is sort of meaningless, vast. But within our space-time framework, it was roughly 2 billion years.
2 billion. Okay, and second density.
That one was even longer, approximately 4.6 billion years. Ra notes it's the longest density in terms of time on this planet.
Wow, 4.6 billion years for animals and plants to develop consciousness. That puts our time here in perspective.
Definitely. And Ra adds the usual caveat, these are approximations, because free will makes development somewhat uneven, not perfectly linear.
Question 76.14 is just a quick confirmation.
Yeah.
Did you state that second density was 4.6 billion? B-I-L.
Yeah, and Ra confirms this is correct.
Okay, so after billions of years for first and second density, 76.15 highlights the contrast. Then we have a third density that is, comparatively speaking, the twinkling of an eye. Why does the third density cycle so extremely rapidly?
And Ra's answer is incredibly concise and profound. The third density is a choice.
A choice. That's the reason for its brevity.
That's the core idea. It's not short just for the sake of being short. Its entire purpose is centered around making that fundamental polarity choice service to others or service to self.
So 76.16 follows that logic.
Yeah.
Third density, then, is nothing but a uniquely short period for the purpose of this choice. Is this correct?
This is precisely correct, Ra replies. They elaborate that those vast stretches of first and second density were like setting the stage.
Laying the foundation.
Exactly. Establishing the illusion, building up the potential for consciousness, for spiritual viability. Then third density is this focused moment, the pivot point.
The axis upon which the creation turns, as Rob put it. Wow.
It really reframes our whole experience here, doesn't it? Less about just existing and learning lessons, more about this crucial defining orientation.
Absolutely. So is this short choice period universal? That's question 76.17. Is this third density choice the same throughout all of the creation?
Ross says they are aware of other creations where third density might last longer in terms of time.
Oh, so it can be different.
It can, but the proportion apparently holds. Third density is still relatively brief compared to the others. In those longer third densities, Ross says the dimensions are kind of etiolated and weakened by that logos.
Stretched out, maybe less intense.
That seems to be the idea, different flavors of creator experience. And Ra contrasts this by saying our creation is seen by them as quite vivid.
Which leads right into 76.1 knees. I didn't understand. Seen to you as being quite vivid. What do you mean?
Ra explains that our logos chose to make things somewhat more condensed here. The experiences are packed tighter, maybe?
More intense?
Yeah, resulting in each experience of the creator being relatively more bright or, well, vivid, as they put it. Higher contrast, perhaps.
Interesting. Okay. Turning towards the physical body in third density. 76.19 starts with an assumption. I am assuming that on entering into third density, disease did not exist. Is this correct?
And Ra immediately corrects that. This is incorrect.
Oh, so disease or something like it was there from the start of third density on Earth.
Apparently so. Which naturally leads to question 76.12. What was the form of disease and why did this exist at beginning third density?
Why would it be there from the beginning?
Ra reframes disease. They describe it as a functional part of the body complex, a mechanism that allows the body to cease functioning, to end its viability. And they call this a desirable function.
Desirable. That's a different perspective.
It is. It's part of the planned life cycle. Ra also mentions microscopic second-density other selves, like bacteria or viruses, perhaps, that assist in this process when it's time.
So, not an invasion or mistake, but part of the body's programmed way of ending an incarnation.
From this perspective, yes, a necessary mechanism.
Question 76.21 tries to reconcile this with the idea of disease as catalyst. What I'm trying to understand is the difference between the plan of the logos and the generation of feedback to create various physical problems that act as catalyst.
Don seems a bit confused here.
Yeah, Ray notes the instrument is feeling more pain, so this will be the last main query. They also say the question itself is a bit tangled, so the answer is more general.
Okay, what's the gist?
Wren suggests the original plan was for entities to gain experience, much like second-density beings seeking awareness before incarnating. But third density turned out to be much more intense.
More intense how?
Catalyst, the stuff that pushes us to learn and grow, was generated much faster and more intensely than it could always be processed or assimilated properly.
So people were getting overwhelmed with experiences.
Something like that. And this created a need for incarnations to be, well, shorter. The physical body needed to cease functioning more frequently to allow for assimilation between lives, to maintain a proper rhythm for learning. So shorter lifespans and more opportunities for the body to cease function, what we call disease, became necessary adjustments because of the sheer intensity of third density catalyst.
That seems to be the explanation Ra provides here. It became part of the mechanism for managing the pace of learning in this vivid creation.
Wow, okay. That's a lot to think about. The final question, 76.22, is kind of two parts. About a crystal skull near Toronto and asking if they can do anything more for the instrument.
Right. On the crystal skull, Ra declines to answer. Even though it might uncover interesting things, answering could influence future actions, violating free will.
Standard law of confusion response there.
Yep. And regarding the instrument's comfort and the contact, Ra simply assures them that all the necessary care is being taken, expresses appreciation, and says, all is well.
A comforting end to the questioning.
And then Ra gives their closing statement.
I leave you, my friends, in the love and the light of the one infinite creator. Go forth, therefore, glorying and rejoicing in the power and in the peace of the one infinite creator, Adonai.
A beautiful closing.
Truly. What a session. Just wow. From the very personal condition of the instrument, through the mechanics of energy transfer, the origins of tarot, the nature of archetypes.
All the way to the fundamental purpose and timeline of third density itself, and even reframing disease, it covers so much ground.
It really does. You get these incredible insights, like third density being this focused point of choice,
Yeah.
or the tarot having this dual, slightly distorted origin.
And the idea that studying one of these systems deeply, tarot, astrology, tree of life, isn't just about fortune-telling, but about connecting with the deep structure of the mind itself.
Yeah, it really gives you shortcuts to understanding some incredibly complex ideas without feeling totally lost.
Absolutely. And you see how layered it all is. You could revisit the session many times and find new connections.
For sure. It leaves you thinking, doesn't it? Like,
Mm-hmm.
how does knowing third density is this choice period change how you look at your own life, your own decisions day to day?
That's a big one. Or which of those archetypal systems, if any, feels like it has that pull of the magnet for you? What might that signify? Exactly. Food for thought. Well, thank you for diving deep with us into session 76 today. We hope it sparked some insights for you.
It's always illuminating to explore this material.
We look forward to the next exploration with you all. Until then, keep seeking, keep learning. Namaste.